Hey everybody, it's Robert Dunt from ArtTop10.com, and I'm very excited to be here today at the Edge to Edge show at the Cello Factory, which I've curated with Alexander Hinks. And I'm here with one of our wonderful artists, Jane Pickersgill. Jane, hello.
Hi.
So, this is your beautiful and crazy piece here. Do you want to tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's part of a series that I started in 2020 during lockdown, and it's part of a series called Couture Drawing, which refers to my previous career as a fashion designer in terms of materials. So as a fashion designer, you tend to use card paper and fabric to create unique pieces. And generally, those are fitted to the body or the mannequin. But in fact, I use the flat process and form it within the machine that I'm working on. It's not hand sewn, it's machine sewing.
Oh, so that's actually machine sewn?
Yes.
No, intriguing. What, unlike just a normal big...
A normal sewing machine, yeah.
Intriguing.
You very rarely sew straight on it, so it's quite a challenge. It has to be held quite firm.
So how do you manage to fold it up and sew? Is that...
That's the skill. I have an idea in mind, so often I pin it in place. So a bit like you might tack something if you were nailing a sculpture. So I will put pins in it to hold it in position, and then I'll do the sewing. But very much it's created in layers where one folds over the other one. And this one's quite kind of circular. I worked on it from different directions, which is a bit the kind of point of it really, because this one, they all have a subtitle, and this one is called The Illusion of Access, and it refers to what we think of as public space in London and big cities, but which is actually private. And so you think you can see in and see and get what's inside, but actually you're completely prohibited from that. And the glass box kind of adds to that.
So it's meant to sum up that sense of sort of not being able to enter a sort of private space.
It's an aspirational object, which I'm interested in. I mean, obviously fashion and art share a kind of common ground in that they create aspirational objects, which have almost become fetishized in popular culture. And people think that if they have that, they're going to be happy, or they're going to be trendy, or that's the latest thing. It's a kind of idea that I'm interested in, that social mobility is all about actually buying one of those aspirational objects.
Intriguing. So you've created a sort of ungettable aspirational object.
Yeah, which is halfway between fashion and halfway between architecture, because of course I'm interested in the architecture in London as symbolic of aspiration. So those big iconic structures like the Gherkin and the Shard, everybody thinks, oh, I'd like to go in there, I'd like to go to the restaurant, I'd like to go to the top and see the view. Exactly. So these kind of relate to those structures.
That's very cool. Yeah, it's really nice. Actually, it does relate to those structures. Yes,
this
it has
one
got a...
actually uses the material in this one that's different to the other one that's in the show. This one uses a fabric called Organza, which was incredibly aspirational in the 50s. All the 50s couture houses used organza for their evening gowns.
Oh, intriguing. Oh, that's quite cool. So it's got an aspirational material inside.
It's very much about materials.
That's really cool. And just tell us about the other one. Oh, good. It's upstairs.
The other piece is created out of black tulle fabric, which is like a net, and traditionally net fabrics form the structure of ballet gowns and party gowns, so they're the petticoats that form the structure. So it's a fabric that is symbolic of structure, and behind it is actually just a piece of very plain brown paper, which is in quite a lot of my other work as well, because I'm kind of pointing out how banal materials, such as the things that architecture is made out of, like steel and concrete, somehow end up as very aspirational objects. And the title of that one is again one of the couture drawing structures, is Switch House, because I love the structure of the Tate modern extension, and I was thinking about that when I created it, and that way that the kind of forms of the cube and the triangle switch in directions. So that's its subtitle, is Switch House.
That's really cool. I love the way that the materials are quite significant to it. They've got a little history behind them. and yet they do all have an architectural kind of, even though they're quite small,
I wanted to be an architect when I was a teenager. Ended up as a fashion designer instead.
But now you've got both.
Actually, not that dissimilar. I think it was Coco Chanel said something like, fashion is just like architecture, it's a matter of scale.
That's really
So
cool.
there's a bit of a connection.
That's really cool. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And do you feel your work fits into that sort of contemporary take on hard-edged art?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm very much an abstract artist. I'm just looking at it from a different point of view. I mean, the materials that I use are quite soft, but what I'm doing is making them into a structure which is hard-edged.
Nice. I love it. That's really cool.
Bumbuckler.